1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, welcome to round 23 of the West Life podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sorry for being away last week, but I had a super bad case of the man flu. Can provide a doctor's certificate if you wish. Hit me up on Twitter at WestlifePod if you want me to submit that. But yes, I had fever and about 39 degrees, which I'm told is not good, and I was bedridden for a lot of the week, and yeah, trying to get to work during the day in between. So I am back this week, and it seems like our season has gone to absolute shit since I last left. We've, of course, lost Robbie Farah, Josh Allier, and, of course, Jacob Little to massive injuries. So the team, we're desperate for a win this weekend. So on today's show, preview for the game against the Knights, some news, and I don't know if you caught it this week. You probably did, because it was absolutely plastered everywhere over social media and the news sites. The NRL released their teams of the decade, being the last year of the decade. Experts brought out their teams. Of course, all the Queensland legends were named, and namely Jonathan Thurston at 5'8", which is fair enough. But I did happen to see someone named a second side, and they named Cameron Munster over Benji Marshall. So I think that's a bit of a disrespect to Benji, and Robbie didn't get the number 9 spot either, and arguably he has been the second best hooker for this decade. Not that I'm biased or anything, but I did put out on Twitter for everyone to submit their West Tigers team of the decade, because let's be honest, who cares about anyone else? And I've done mine as well, so I'll go through that and all of your suggestions later in the show. But up first is the news. News time, and as I mentioned, and as you probably already know, poor Jacob Little did his knee against Manly last week. Now, the full diagnosis is a torn anterior cruciate ligament, an ACL. If you're not sure what that is, so that's the ligament right at the rear of the knee. Anterior means at the rear. So it's the one right in the centre. So I had pretty much the exact same thing happened to me playing OzTag. I had a teammate cannonball me in the knees, and my tear was only a grade 2, and I believe Lids is a bit better than that, a bit worse than that rather. And yeah, that injury took me a hell of a long time to get my strength back in my knee, and I still get knee soreness, and haven't been able to squat as good ever since. So, but Lids will obviously have much better physios and teams and surgeons and that sort of thing, helping him get back out there. So I'm sure Lids will come back stronger and better once he recovered, and I maintain my status as Mayor of Little Island, despite him not playing, and I send him all the best in recovery. If you don't feel sorry for this kid, you're a heartless arsehole, because it's a freak of an injury. I'm sure Tommy Talau feels a bit guilty about doing that to his own teammate, even though it was a complete accident. But not many knee ligaments survive 100 kilo cannonball straight to the knee, hyperextension like that. So get well soon, Jacob. In good news, the club announced this week its final membership tally surpassed 20,000 for the second year in a row. 20,739 is the final tally. You can only imagine what that number would be if we actually started winning games and all the bandwagoners returned. Some people I saw online wrote that it'd be higher if we played more games at Seatown and Campbelltown, but that would probably make the packages more expensive. So I don't think that's the case. I think they just got to start winning more games. Winning more games means more fans, unlike some of us who stick through thick and thin and get memberships on auto renew year after year. So well done to all of you who sign up to be a member, and will do so again in 2020. The club officially announced it signed Jake Simpkin this week. I didn't realise that wasn't official, but the young Queensland hooker who's got massive raps on him. But at the same time, they announced they signed his Woodham Manly teammate, Reece Hoffman, who's a centre. He's also got big raps on him up there in Queensland, and we're likely going to go into the Broncos system. Both played Queensland under-19s this year, but both won't be able to play until after round 16 next year. But they're very young, so that's more of a future signing, possibly 2021 and further down the line. But apparently they're pretty good, so some good signs for the future. In terms of closer signings, Channel 9 suggested just today that the Dragons could sign Josh Reynolds. I mean, ideally, you want him to have a blinder at hook and show he can play hooker this weekend. We can just hold on to him and maybe train him into a 9 over the off-season until Lids gets back. But the Dragons are apparently looking to offload Matt Duffy and Ewan Aitken. Now, I quite like Matt Duffy. I don't know why Dragons fans... I've got a mate who's a massive Dragons fan, and he can't really stand Matt Duffy, and it seems like he's not well liked by Dragons fans, but the kid's got some speed, and our team really needs someone who's just out and out speed. And there's not really anyone who, when someone makes a break, that you're like, I hope he gets the ball in his hand. So I don't know, maybe a suggestion, you could play him at fullback, move Momo to the centres, which is where he's playing this week, and move Esan to the forwards. I think that's the future for Esan. I think he's going to be on the Luke Lewis mould and move from the outside backs into the forwards as he gets older. But let me know on Twitter if you think I'm an idiot for suggesting that, but just an idea. Robbie's come out and said he's desperate to play in the last game despite his leg being broken. He said cut it off if you have to. Not that would make you much faster having one leg, but I think the situation will be is if we're out of finals contention, Madge will say stuff it and maybe name him to play against the Sharks, but if they need the win desperately, I don't think there's any chance that Robbie, with half a leg, would be sent out in front of Joshy Reynolds, who has his legs intact. So, we'll see what happens week by week. So, finally, Benji Marshall has made it as a finalist for Dad of the Year. His young son, Fox, of course, who you've probably seen with his blonde curly hair getting around the ground over the last couple of seasons. So head to sportsdads.com.au to vote for Benji and get him the trophy there. And that's it for the news for this week. My round 23 preview is next. Round 23, it's do or die this week, and we need a win. If we lose, mathematically, we are stuffed. Basically, we need to win 3 from 3 to finish. And we have the Newcastle Knights Saturday evening at Campbelltown Stadium, 5:30 p.m. kickoff. The weather's meant to be really good in Western Sydney on the weekend. They reckon it'll hit about 24 during the day, and kickoff might be around the high teens, if Google serves me correctly, and that's not too bad for Campbelltown. If you've been to Campbelltown in the middle of the winter, it gets brutally cold out there, so I'll take that. That's just hoodie and pants weather, not too bad. No thermals needed, I don't think. Team list, Joshy Reynolds, of course, is in the number 9. Less excitingly, Robert Jennings is also back from New South Wales Cup. He's on the wing. Momorovsky has been shifted to the centres, and Tommy Talau is not getting a second game in first grade. Madge decided to demote him, but be as it may, McKaylee and Ollie Clark are the front rowers. The back rowers, Garner, Lawrence, Maddo, Bench is Ison, Huth, E.T., Twal, and Cheeky. And then just outside the 17 is Tommy Talau, Chris McQueen, and young Sam McIntyre. Madge didn't bother listing a number 21 for some reason, but not that it really matters. My bet of the week, I think on a dry surface out at Campbelltown, the ball's going to be thrown around a bit. I reckon both Notha and Corey to score tries. Notha loves a try out at his home ground of Seatown. So Notha and Corey back-to-back, same game multi. If you want to have a crack there, that's my bet. The Magpies, they're playing the same day on Saturday. They're playing at Henson Park in Marrickville. I think Henson Park is technically in, but it's a cool little place to go watch footy if you've never been there before. Bit of nostalgia. It's a cricket oval, so it's a bit rubbish, really. You're not really that close to the action, but the atmosphere is always cool. With all the hipster Newtown Jets fans and heaps of good pubs around as well. So have a beer and watch the footy, and then race down the M5 to Campbelltown for first grade later on a nice sunny Saturday. The New South Wales Cup guys, actually, they need that win to get into the top 8, I believe. So it's a pretty important game for them. That's the preview for this week. My West Tigers team in the decade and your team of the decade is up next. As I said in the opener this week, they named the NRL team of the decade. No West Tigers players were named, so I thought, why don't we all gather around and name our West Tigers only team in the decade, so from 2010 until this year. I got you guys to submit your own on Twitter. I got a heap of submissions, so I'll go through those after I name my first. Now, fullback, I've gone James Tedesco. I think that's pretty common. Most people said him. 90 games, 50 tries is not a bad strike rate, and probably the one player that if we could have back right now, probably 99% of us would say him. On the wings, I had David Nofaluma, who's played 116 games and scored 54 tries this decade. So say what you want about Nofa. He's been a great stalwart of the team and scored a shitload of meat pies in that time. On the other wing, I was actually going to name Bo Ryan because he played for so long, but I ended up changing my mind and going with Lottie Takiri. Now, he was a big part of that 10-11 run into the semis. Scored 27 tries in 52 games, which is a pretty good strike rate, and was a pretty solid replacement for Taniela Tuiaki, who went down with a career-ending injury in 2009. The halves, I've gone Benji, of course, at number 6. I don't think anyone else named anyone in that position other than Benji, and I've gone Luke Brooks at the 7, which most people have as well. Brooks has played 128 games in the 7, and the only real other halfbacks were Robert Louis, who played a couple of years before we cut ties with him for his domestic violence incident, and young Jacob Miller had a couple of games in between. In the forwards, of course, Robbie Farah is hooker. I don't think anyone else named anyone else at the 9, and why would you? Front rows, I have Keithy Galloway, who played 111 games for us in that decade, and Aaron Woods, 146 games for us before he went off to the Bulldogs and then the Sharks. But say what you like about Woodsy. At his peak, he was an Origin front rower, and he might not quite have that form anymore, but he was one of the few Origin stars that we've had in this time. But back row, I've gone with Gareth Ellis, who I think is one of the greatest West Tigers players of all time, and would absolutely kill for a clone of him right now in this team. It's just if you go back and watch highlights of that 10, 11 years, and the guy's just absolute machine. I don't think I've seen anyone hit harder in tackles and also have the skill of him. Other back rower is Liam Fulton. He played 85 games in that decade. Of course, he was part of the grand final team in 05, but also the 10-11 run as well. Sneaky, skillful player, super defensive player, such just a tackling machine, and obviously had to retire early because of concussions. And if you missed our chat with Liam earlier in the year, go back through the archives of this pod and hear our chat with Liam, see what he's up to in his off-season now. Another West Tigers 2005 legend I've gone at lock. I've gone with Chris Hyington. To think we let him go for Adam Blair, who was an absolute freaking dud when he came to us. He was just a great middleman and just an Iron Man when it came to just playing week in, week out, and played so many games for us and just never really let you down. I mean, he wasn't a super spark game changer, but he just did his job so well. So I went with Hino at the 13, and he was playing the 13 in 2010, 2011 as well. Now, my bench is a little bit different. So I've gone Suaso Su, who played 116 games for us, and another low-key guy who just did his job, and I really think he started coming really good last year, and I was really sad to see him leave at the end of the last season because I really thought he was starting to provide a lot of impact off the bench, but be as it may, he's now over at the Bulldogs. Another one that'll probably get a bit of shock, I've gone with Curtis Sirenen. Now, I think he is pretty underrated, and I think he was a lot more skillful, and because he was, if you remember, early in his career, he played in the halves with Benji, and he's quite a skillful guy, very good at offload, and can score a try, and it's no wonder that playing under Des Hasler at Manly, he's actually having one of the best seasons of his career. So, I went with Ciro there, and to the shock of some people. Josh Allier, I've got it at the 16. He's played 72 games for us, and from last season, you'd probably say maybe 2017, he's just come on so well, and since he's been injured, it's no coincidence that our halves aren't playing as well, because the guy he's an absolute machine, and I'm glad we've got him for the future, and I don't think he's hit his peak yet, but the fact that he's played so well the last couple of years, I'd threw him in. And then 17, I had to put in Simon Dwyer, even though he only played 35 games for us before he went down with that injury. I truly believe Simon Dwyer was destined to play State of Origin, I reckon, as soon as the year after he got injured in late 2011. I reckon if he never did that shoulder injury, he would have played State of Origin in 2012, I reckon. The guy was a freaking machine. Just ran holes as good as anyone I've seen in a West Tigers jersey. And it's just so sad what happens to him. And, of course, he's on the West Tigers staff now. Does the online, the analysis sort of stuff for Madge up in the coaching box. But, man, we could really do with a Simon Dwyer in our team right now. But a few honourable mentions. Marty Tapau I left out. He was obviously really good, but only 2 seasons here. Ryan Madison was in a couple of teams, as you'll see as I read him out. He's so damn good, I almost threw him in, but the fact he's only been here 1 season kind of made me not want to give him the honours. Paddy Richards got named couple of times, but he only played 43 games this decade, and he was at the back end of his career. I think people will kind of remember him as his 2005 form. Same with Dean Hallertau. He wasn't here for a lot of the decade. He went to the Dogs in 2010. We only got the last 52 games of his career, but he was a great feeling guy and an absolute legend of a bloke as well. Righto, so that's my team. Here's what you guys submitted to me via Twitter at Westlife Pod if you want to get involved with the show. Lockie Mack, so he's got Teddy, Notha, Lawrence and Simona in the centres, Lottie Kiri, Benji and Brooks in the halves, Woods and Galloway in the forwards, Robbie Farah, Ellis, Fulton, Hyington, Dwyer, Fafita, Madison and Moses on the bench. So very, very similar. His 13 is pretty much just, I think, exactly the same as mine, but he's thrown Fafita in there, Ryan Madison and Mitch Moses on the bench, which is interesting. Booner's 05, he's gone Teddy, Takiri, Lawrence, Simona, Paddy Richards, Benji and Brooks in the halves, Ryan Madison, Dwyer, Ellis, Galloway, Farah and Woods. He's done his forwards upside down. So Woods and Galloway in the front row, Farah, Ellis, Dwyer, Maddo. That's a very good back row right there. And on the bench, Fafita, Adam Blair, Marty Tapau, and Dino Halatau. Up next, Will, he said Tedesco. Korobedi is not a bad shout. He definitely left the team too early. He's playing for the Wallabies at the moment. Same with Josh Adokar, also left too early and would definitely be on our side had he have stayed. But Simona and Lawrence in the centres, Brooks and Marshall in the halves. Front rows, Andrew Fafita, Keithy Galloway, Farah, of course, hooker, Simon Dwyer, Gareth Ellis, Marty Tapau are the back rowers, and then Woods, Madison, Twal, and Fulton on the bench. Courtney, the closet Tigers fan, also known as Lockie's mum, she said Teddy, Notha, Simona, Chris Lawrence, Corey Thompson on the wing, Benji and Brooksy, front rowers, Woodsy and Keithy, Robbie at hooker, and then Dwyer, Ellis, Hyington in the back row, and then on the bench, Ryan Madison, Liam Fulton, Bryce Gibbs, and Dean Halatau. I'm not sure. Gibbsy, he was there in 10-11, so yeah, fair shout. I'm not sure why I didn't think of Bryce Gibbs, but he was a decent player for us just before he went to the Sharkies as well. Paddy Seals, as you may well know, as Notha's biggest fan going around. He didn't name Notha in every position 1 to 17, but of course, yeah, he's got Notha and Takiri / Richards on the bench, on the wing. Teddy at fullback, Lawrence and Simona in the centres, Benji and Brooks, Woods, Farah, Galloway, Dwyer, Ellis, Hino, Halatau, Tapau, Fulton, and Maddo. So his 1 to 17 is all but the same as me, bar a couple. So yeah, quite close. Paddy there. Frulin's League 13 Internationals, his handle. He's gone. So he said based on full playing ability, so not just their time at West Tigers. So a bit of a depressing reading, this one, because you think of who we've lost. So he's got Teddy, Adokar, Tuiaki, Chris Lawrence, Paddy Richards, Benji Brooks, Matt Lodge, and Aaron Woods in the front row, Farah at 9, Dwyer, Ellis, and Anasta, his back row. He didn't name a bench. Jace Gray. So listen to this super strong side that Jace Gray has submitted. Justin Hunt at fullback, Joel Reddy and Jordan Rankin on the wings, Jamal Idris and Keith Leilua in the centres, Braithen Nasta, Jacob Miller as the halves, Matt Grote and Matt Bell in the front row, Masato Yosefa as the hooker, Adam Blair, Bodine Thompson, and Alan Chernak. That's a throwback in the back row. And then the bench is Matt Ballon, Joel Edwards, Kyle Lovett, and Eddie Pettyborn. So that's a side that could win a premiership in New South Wales Cup. And then Bryson, my boy, up there in Tukely, he submitted Tedesco, Nofaluma and Corey on the wings, Simona and Lawrence in the centres, Marshall Brooks in the halves, Woodsy Galloway front row, Robbie Farah at the 9, Dwight Ellis Maddo in the back row, and then the bench, Halatau, Alex Twal, Liam Fulton, and just says Ryan. I'm assuming that's Bo Ryan is who you mean there, Bryson. So thanks for submitting those, guys. That was a bit of fun segment to play around with. And like I said, follow us on Westlife Pod at Twitter to get involved in the show. Follow us on Facebook and on Instagram as well. Good luck to everyone heading out to Campbelltown on Saturday night. They do have a after-match function that I'm trying to convince the wife to go to. Maybe if I get a Chinese feed at the Leagues Club into her after the game, I might convince her to get there. So I may see you there. So if the wife and I are there, I haven't won that argument. But be as it may, I'll see you at the game anyway. Good luck to the boys. Fingers crossed we get a win. And shout out to Jacob Little. Get well soon. See you next week, guys.